just comes off. So the only thing that's left on this board right now are the brass nails. And we're going to pull all of those out. And I tumble them in a rock tumbler. So when we get there, I'll show you that process. So this is relatively easy. You may find some other different ways to do this on the internet. This is the way that I found to be the easiest way for me to do this. And I use, again, my bent nose pliers. I did buy a longer handled pair, but I actually find that these are a little easier just to maneuver. Either one will do the trick. And now you have a block of wood. This is a 3/4 piece of pine. It's soft. You want a board a piece of wood that's soft, so it's got some give to it. So all you're going to do is take the board and snuggle it up against any nail, and you're going to take the tip of your needle nose and get right under the head of the nail. And then once you're in position, you just push down on your needle nose, and it's going to pull that nail right out. And if a couple of things. If you're not going to replace the playfield, but you want the nails to be nice and clean, it's, my opinion, easier to pull the nails out, tumble them, and then put them back in than it is to try to clean them in place. I do have a video that shows you how to clean them in place, but it's very labor intensive. It takes a long time. It's much easier to pull the nails, in my opinion. But when you do this, you want to do this like slow and steady. You don't want to try to pop them out of here, because you can't see it, but as I'm pulling them out, so I pulled the 2 nails here and the 2 here, it's leaving the playfield intact. If you try to pull them out too fast, too quickly, you can rip this playfield. And you may end up ripping it anyway, being as careful as you can be. It's just something that's going to happen. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. So you're just going to keep going until all of the nails are off the board, and then I'll show you how I prepare them to be tumbled. Okay, all of the nails are off the board now. So the only thing that's still on the board is the playfield, this artwork, and we'll be taking that off momentarily. A couple of things prior to taking it off. You're going to want to clean it, even though you're going to take it off. There's a reason that you want to clean. It'll become evident a little bit later on. And also you want to take a look at the inspection sticker. Typically there is a staple in the inspection sticker. They did that so that somebody couldn't remove the inspection sticker easily and put it on another machine. So it is something that needs to come out prior to lifting the playfield off. So you want to get in and get that staple out of there. Now this particular inspection sticker is in really bad shape. So I'm not worried about harming it by trying to get the staple out. On a good inspection sticker, then I'll go in and be very careful trying to get that staple out. This inspection sticker here is pretty well shot. You can't even read it. I don't think the one that would have had the date on it is just destroyed. So I will not worry about trying to replace this sticker at all. If it's in really nice shape, once I get the playfield off, then I'll cut around this and glue this back onto the new playfield. And if it's a customer's machine, I'll ask them if they want the original sticker put back on. Some people want it on for authenticity, and some people just don't care about it. So, all right, so what I'm going to do now is just hit this quickly with some Awesome and get it clean. You see how dirty it is, but you also will see what a good job Awesome does on this, on years and years and years of dirt. that are on the boards. Now, if you're planning to not replace the playfield, but you opted to pull the nails and not clean them in place, then I need to show you something when I'm done with this. The only reason I'm getting the dirt off of this is just because I'm going to use it later and I want it clean. There's no other reason to clean this, because eventually you'll end up throwing this away. But the next time I use this, I don't want it filthy. You'll see why as we progress. Okay, so that's clean enough. Now, what I want to show you is, if you're not going to replace the playfield, but you have pulled the nails, then you don't want to spray Awesome onto the board like I just did. What you're going to want to do is just spray a little bit on the cloth and then clean an area. Spray a little on the cloth, clean an area. Don't spray directly onto the board. And I think I can show you if I can get it close enough. If you see right here, you see that darkness around that hole? That wasn't there prior to me spraying the Awesome. That's actually the liquid that got underneath this playfield and has stained underneath the playfield. That's called water damage, and you'll see that on machines. A lot of machines will have water damage, some much more so than that. But that's what you want to avoid if you're not going to take the playfield off. If you're going to take the playfield off, it doesn't matter. It's not an issue if you're going to remove the playfield and put a new one on. But again, if you're going to leave the original playfield on, don't spray the cleaner on. Use it from the cloth and clean so you don't get liquid seeping through your playfield. So that's just the board empty, basically. And the next step will be to remove the playfield. Now, one thing that I wanted to tell you is this is vinegar. Again, I use the Awesome cleaning vinegar. Seems to work really well, and it's cheap. And I have all of the brass nails soaking in this. I also have all the brass nails that we took off the front of the machine. They're all in here, and you want to let them soak for maybe a half an hour or so. And these nails were really black when I put them in, or dark brown, if you will. You can see how relatively shiny the piece that was down into the wood, and then this is much darker. But it's substantially lighter than it was. So it doesn't, the vinegar really gets at that tarnish quite well. So from here, we'll let these soak for a little while, and then I'll show you the setup I use for putting them into the rock tumbler. And then we'll move on to tearing the playfield off the board. Now I'm going to show you how to remove the playfield. Situation, everything is off the board. The playfield has been cleaned quickly. We've got that staple out of the inspection sticker. There's nothing else. No nails, no screws, no staples or anything here. And the other side of the board is all taken care of also. So what you want to do is lay this flat on your work surface, and I have a 4-inch putty knife that I use. This is, I found, probably the best tool there is to do this. If you have a smaller putty knife, something like this, that will work also, but the wider the better. And these don't have to be sharp, but you do want the edge to be clean without any nicks or scratches or anything like that, because you're going to be pressing on the board and you don't want to gouge down into the board. So what you have here is this is an old piece of plastic or vinyl, and it had a paper back on it that had the artwork on it, and then it had an adhesive, so it's stuck to the board with an adhesive. So what you're going to do is get underneath the plastic portion of it and just start to work work that plastic up off of the board, and you do this kind of methodically. Don't be in a hurry. Work it the best you can, and ideally you want to try to lift up as much of the paper as you can, but at this point you don't worry about it. You just work it, and what you're trying to avoid is getting the blade tipped so that you might bite into this and cut it. You want to try to get this all off in one piece, and you'll see why as we progress. But so I'm just working this gently back and forth. You got to be a little careful when you get up where there's a lot of nail holes that you don't rip it. Now the one thing that's important if you're going to do a playfield replacement, what I want to do is just turn it and work it from the other side. Is ultimately you want this board surface to be as flat as you can possibly make it, and we'll show you that. But you want to avoid trying to put any nicks or gouges into this board. And I've had a couple of times where when removing the nails right from this skinny area in here, right in here, sometimes it's even narrower on some boards, and this is a laminated board, and sometimes when you pull the nails it'll actually break the lamination and a little piece will come out. Don't throw that away. That needs to be put back in so that portion of the surface is flat again. We've almost got this off, and there it is. So that's your play field for the time being. You're just going to set it aside. Don't throw it away. You're going to need it again when you reassemble the machine. So this is what it'll look like once it's off. And as I believe I mentioned before, this machine didn't have water damage. On machines that have water damage, you'll see the darkness everywhere that the water had gotten through and stained this portion that shows through. So you see that there's literally no water damage. You can, I don't know if you can see it or not in the camera or not, but there are some darkness here, right in here, but that's from me cleaning the board. In the previous video I showed you where I cleaned the board and you could see the darkness. That's the darkness that you saw. This is not vintage darkness, if you will. This playfield had no water damage. It was, I just decided to replace it because it was faded and I wanted to be able to do the video, obviously. So the next step is to get all of this off, and it's done with a disc sander. I use a relatively heavy grit initially to get the white off, and then I change the grits down to finer and finer as you're actually just sanding the wooden surface to get it very, very smooth. That's the ideal situation. As I do that, I'll also use the same grits on the back side of the board where the guts are. And this doesn't have to be sanded perfectly flat, but the balls do run against this surface, so you do want it flat, but not flat like this surface here. This surface you want really, really flat and smooth, because every little bump or groove will show when you go to put your new playfield on. This side you just want to get it so that it's clean.